I was working in a cleaning plant, and I put in a request to get out of the cleaning plant to get on the maintenance job. Well, now the cleaning plant was paying me 5 days a week and a little bit of money, not a few cents an hour. And they couldn't figure out why I wanted off that and get out on a job. Well, there's no good time, there's no money, there wasn't nothing. But I was trying to get closer to the water. Well, one boy got over there named Jimmy Borman, and me and him was talking, and I got myself over there. Then Fred Hunter, one of the Barker boy gangs, Ma Barker gang, that was captured with Alvin Karpus in 1936. Well, he got over there. Then another man come over by the name of Harold Brest, and the four of us, we were planning to leave. Then one man was in a paint shop named Bill Wright. He was in on it at first. It's 5 of us. And so we started planning on work. And I got a boy over in the machine shop to steal me some cutting blades, cutting wheels for the little motor. And they had a stack of old burnt up motors and wire and everything over there close to the building. They was gonna, I don't know what they was gonna do with it, I guess throw it away. But we found a little motor, and it was all black and burnt up. And we started to work on it. Kept on working on it. We finally put it back together and it run. And we figured now we get a shaft to where we could stick it through the window. See, it had windows inside about that far from the bars. And we wasn't able to cut this window inside that held those glasses. We had to cut the bars outside first, but we had to have a long shaft to stick on an angle to where we could put that wheel up in through there. So we made us a shaft to fit the motor, and then we got the man in the machine shop to steal us the cutting blades, and we smuggled them in through the fence and in the building, and we started to work on the bars. And the man in the paint shop furnished us putty and paint. And when we'd saw a bar, we'd putty it up and paint it, make it look like a good bar. The guard that was over us, he was also over these other 2 shops, the carpenter shop and the paint shop, and the electric shop. It was there too. And about 10:30, he would go up and pick up the men who had got a haircut that morning. And when he'd go up to get these men to bring them down to their shop, wherever they were working, well, we would cut bars. But at this time, it was 1943, and they had declared war with Japan, and they had soldiers on the roof right ahead. So he had 2 soldiers right on the roof where we were, and 2 guards right above us. But anyway, we started to work on these bars, and we'd cut a little each day till we got them cut out. And we putted them up and painted them, made them look like they was good bars. And meantime, we were building us a boat that is a surfboard like. They tore out all the old boards out of the library and put in new shells, new boards. And you stacked the boards down right outside our building in front of this little carpenter shop. We got Harvey Bailey, Machine Gun Kelly's partner, one of them. We got him to take some of these boards in there and plane them down to where there's about a 1/4 inch thick. And Fred Hunter and I made us a 12-foot surfboard. We cut little strips 3 inches wide, and we got watertight glue out of the paint shop and glued them together, made a like surfboard, and 3-inch airspace. In each end on the 12-foot board, we bored a hole through, and we got a piece of water hose, garden hose, and we stuck it through to make it flush with the top where to hang down on the bottom. We're going to breathe through it. And we put some wires on the bottom for a cradle, where you could lay in it. And he'd have his head one end, and I'd have my head the other. And we'd be up on the bottom of the board. And we got paint out of the paint shop, and we blended it, Bill Wright did, where it kind of blend with the water out there in the bay. So when it got out in the bay, it wouldn't be so easy seen. The other boys made them a 6-foot one apiece. And to camouflage them and keep them, we put them up on the wall and put pipe fittings and stuff on them, marked the sizes and things on it, what they were. We had decided we was going to fix up some rubber seagulls that, take this white lining out of Army and Navy raincoats. See, we were washing Army and Navy stuff over in the laundry. We stole some of that watertight glue out of the paint shop, and we made patterns and looked like seagulls. We had a hole through them where you could stick a hose up through where you get on the bottom and breathe through it. And we had 4 of those made, and 4 of us were going. And we had everything down pretty good, and we pitched a coin to see who would go first, which 2. See, Fred Hunter and I was going together, and Harold Brest and Jimmy Borman was going together. And so we pitched a coin. Before we pitched the coin, Fred Hunter says, "You pitch the coin." Says, "You're the luckiest man I ever seen." Said, so I pitched the coin, we won. Be the first to go out. Well, we got out and got in the water and shove off, then they would come. They'd wait in case somebody else, officer showed up and they'd tie them up. Well, the day we got ready to go, well, it was April the 13th, 43. And I didn't want to go, and Fred didn't want to go, because the fog was coming in, looked like pretty thick, but along in the spring, you couldn't depend on that fog. We wanted to wait till fall when it stayed, low and heavy. Anyway, they kept arguing about it, and Jimmy Borman said, "Well, I was the first one over here, and I started this and all that." And Harold Brest said he'd going to go with him. And so I figured, well, maybe we can get out that fog. By me and Fred being first, we had a pretty good chance that they'd carry out their agreement. We get in the water and shove off. And if they got caught, then of course it'd be up to them or whatever they could do. So we agreed to go. And we jerked these bars out. We tied up her guard. Now there was 2 soldiers and 2 guards right above me, you see. And there's always a possibility they'd come around and look over the edge, but they didn't. But I poked this 12-foot board out and crawled out behind it. And I got out, and here come Fred Hunter right behind me. And I got out in the water with this board for Fred to come out there with me. And here come these other 2 boys and without their board and dove off in the water and started swimming overhanded out towards that fog. Fred Hunter says, "Well, my God," says, "we might as well hunt a hiding place." Said, "Ain't no way in the world they can keep them being seen." And boy, all at once they started shooting at us. And they killed Jimmy Borman. The first shot, I think, must have hit him. Then they went to shooting at Harold Brest, and he'd go under every time he'd see them start opening up on him and come up, bob up another place. Then the boat come around, and the warden and the doctor was coming down the catwalk, and he motioned for the island boat to stop, and then he would motion for each guard to shoot. In other words, he's trying to get them to kill us all. And the warden and the doctor said they saw me go down the hail of bullets. And this other boy, they tried to rescue his body and couldn't, and they never did find it. It disappeared. I imagine sharks ate him up. When I come out of the water, I just kicked the board away and let it go. And they never did find it, so it must have been pretty well camouflaged. And I come back behind the high bank, about 20 foot high there, and then the building set back a little way so they couldn't see down there. There was a round opening, went in a cave about 5 foot across and 5 foot high, kind of a round thing. And you had to go on some rocks and wade through a little bit of water, and then when you got inside, there was pieces of automobile tires where they cut the segments out of that mat shop that we used to work in. Cut the segments out and take them down to those pieces and place them in there to keep them washing out onto the building. And when we went inside, we could hear all the sirens and everything else blowing. You peep out and see all boats coming from every direction. I told Fred we'd better hurry up and get ahead. He had arthritis in his hands. He couldn't move his hands very good. I says, "Pick you out a place and I'll bury you, and then I'll look for me a place." So he went around the L part and next to the wall and said, "Right along here." So I dug out a place down there and put him in it and covered him up. Then I went back up a little ways, and there was a overhang, come over, and you kind of crawl under it, and it was high enough to set up in under there. I got under there, and I went to digging down again the wall. And after I dug out so much, then I got in there, and I'd pull that stuff up and just keep scooting down till I went down to hit mud. Pulled all this other over me, and the guards come in. There's a bunch of them. And they searched. They didn't find anything. And directly here come the associate warden, one of the lieutenants, and another guard. And they started searching. And Miller, the associate warden, directly hollered, "Here's one of them," and he, boom, shot right at it. That's Fred Hunter. And he told him to come out of there, and guards went to uncover him. He uncovered him and got out. And he told him, says, "You get up." He said, "I'll kill you if you do," and says, "You keep on your hands and knees," and made him crawl all the way out. And I heard him say, "If you make a move," says, "I'll kill you," and said, "I ought to kill you anyway," and says, "These officers here will swear that you attacked me and says, won't you, won't you? And the lieutenant and the other guard wouldn't say a word. And so then he said, all right, says, you drive, crawl on out to the boat. Took him around out there, and I guess they got him in the boat. Associate warden come in. I'll kill that other son of a bitch if I find him. And he says, something, boom, 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 just shooting everywhere. And he shot under this place, and the bullet come close enough to me to just like sledgehammer hit me, you know. You know, he hit them tars, and I guess that tars the only thing kept him killing me, but it was close enough where when it hit those tars, well, boy, it jarred the far out of me. And I laid there gapping for breath, and I figured, well, but I didn't figure he could hear me. He's making too much noise. I finally got my breath back, and then he took on off and left. And a few hours later, here come the captain that we had tied up. And when he come in, he must have had a dozen guards with him, because I heard him say, move all these tars from the front all the way around. We want to see if we can find it again. Well, I didn't know what they was talking about. I didn't know who they had or who they didn't have, you know. But I knew one of them had to be me. And when they got here to where I was, he crawled under there. He says, here's some fingerprints on one of these tars. Says, maybe he's right in here somewhere. The other guard said, well, Fred Hunter was found right here. Said, it's probably where he was. And so, yeah, he says, I guess it was. And so he's digging. And he's breathing right in my face, seemed like. You know, he's breathing real hard. I figure, well, he only likes about 8 to 10 inches being to me. And he's talking about how tired he was, which I imagine they were, because they'd moved a lot of tars. And he turned around and sat down on me, on my belly. And he's sitting there talking. And I figured, well, when he gets through talking and they start back to work, there's no way he can miss me, because he moved the tars, there I am. And Weinhold, I heard him holler, everybody quit and come on out. Says a tide is coming up, and it'd have this place, you know, closed off where you can't get in and out. Says we'll have to come back and finish it up after the tide goes down. And so they all left. And I figured, well, now, if they notice me lay here, because they're going to come back and start digging right along here, so I better move, get back where they've already looked. And so after the tide got up where I was sure to come in, I went up close to the front. When a high tide, and I was on an angle, kind of a 45-degree angle, laying my feet down. And I laid there, and the water come up around my shoulders and things. My head was out, but when the waves would come in, it'd kind of go up and down, you know, the water would. Then the crabs started biting on me. I mean, the little crabs, I could feel them on my feet, but I couldn't keep them away, you know. I could kick, but they'd come right back. Pretty soon I got so cold that I couldn't feel the crabs pinch me. Then when the tide went down, here come a bunch of soldiers, and I could hear them talk, because it wasn't over 10, 12 feet from them. And they had flashlights, and they talked about how strong those beams are. And they're talking about their gas grenades, they're talking about their hand grenades or explosive, you know, how powerful they was and what they'd do. And so they set up those lights. They went to throwing hand grenades first. You know how they go boom, just kind of a thug like. And they said, well, said, he's back there, that gas will bring him out. So they kept throwing him back there a little bit, and they'd sit there and wait. And he said, well, says, I don't know whether he's back there or not, but says if he is, he's in good protection. But says we'll blast him out. So they went throwing hand grenades back there. And it'd go boom, you know, a loud noise, and jar you a little bit, you know. And he kept on doing that for a little while, and Ricky said, well, if he's back there, he's dead. And I heard him, one of the officials there said, well, says, what we'll do, we'll just cement this place up and leave his body in there. We won't try to find it. And they left. After midnight, the third night, I didn't hear anything. And I figured if I keep laying there in that water, I was going to be so numb I couldn't move. And I could just barely make my hands or legs move as they were. And when I come out, I had to rub myself all over to get where I could move a little bit. And I went back up to the building to find something. Well, first I was going up the wall, about a 20-foot wall, and I got up the top. It's kind of a square corner and hard to get over. Nothing up there to get a hold of. I felt around. I finally found a little old rock. I got a hold of it, and I got myself almost over the top, and the rock pulled out. Down the hill I went. I hit the rocks down in the water. I scooted out into deep water, and I finally got back to the shore, and the moon is shining real bright. Anyway, when I went back up the hill this time, I found a hole there, and I went on over. And I had to go over a lot of barbed wire and a 10-foot fence, wire on top of it. Finally got over after tearing myself up a lot. And then I was trying to get back up that hole, and I figured, well, maybe there's a way around this other way. I had never been back there before, you know. And I stepped around the corner. When I stepped around the corner, the road tower guard throwed a light on me, and he's blinking it. I figured, run. But I said, now that won't do, because he'll know there's something wrong. So I stuck up my hand and waved at him, and he waved back, and he cut the light off. There was a gate coming in to go around that building, so I went up there and acted like I was examining that lock. And I turned around and walked back real slow, and I went around the corner. Then I stood up against the wall. I figured, well, now if he's suspicious, he'll call, and there'll be sirens, and there'll be people down there in a minute, so I'll just wait a while. So I stood there a good while, and I never heard anything. I figured, well, the only way I can get in that building is go around the front. And then I went to prowling around in that other rooms for try to find something to float away on. See, I knew there was some paint buckets up there with had tight lids on them, and I figured if I could find about 4 of them, they would hold me up. I'd get out and get back in the water and float away. But they had moved all those buckets. They wasn't there anymore. And I kept running into things. And this guard next door heard me. Here he come running over there with a flashlight and a 45. He said, well, I had found a piece of pipe, 3/4-inch pipe, about 18 inches long. And I had it in my hand, and I figured, well, when he run over there, I'd run up close to the door and got right over where he opened the door. I was in the corner, and he'd open the door, he'd be right in my face. And I had this pipe. I was going to hit him on his head and take his gun and his suit, and I'd go down to the dock. I was waiting on him, but he would never come in. He'd go back over and sit a little while, and I'd go prowling around. I'd run into something. He'd hear me again. He'd run over again. I figured, well, I better be quiet. And I'm about to freeze. I had these old dirty, muddy clothes on. I took them off and put them on a steam radiator, and directly they dried. And I was going to wait till that guard left, because he's supposed to make a round every so often in case of fire and things like that. But he never did move. And when the clothes got dried, I just put them back on. Well, I squatted down there, so I figured, well, when he moves, I'll go to hunting me something then. I can really, get busy and make a lot of noise. But he never moved, and I was been laying awake down there because that water, going up and down, I was afraid to go to sleep. And it's too cold anyway. I was miserable. I was dead for sleep, and I didn't even know I went to sleep. And it seemed like in about 2 seconds I had coming in the door. And they seen me sitting there. I heard him when he was coming in the door, said, Captain, he told that guard, says, now you look for that motor and wheel. I know it's here somewhere. Says, find it. And that's what they'd been looking for, moving everything. But wasn't no way from finding it because we'd thrown it out in the bay. But anyway, when they come in and seen me, they forgot all about the motor. And Captain Winold walked over and said, get up. I told him I can't. He says, get up. And he took out a slapjack and hit me upside of the head, like that. And I still couldn't get up. I'd think about moving my arm or leg, but they wouldn't move. It was just like I was paralyzed. And I told him, I said, I can't move. And he seen I couldn't, and he called for help, carry me up the building. So they took me up put me in a hospital and kept me a few days. They put me in one of them little cages that they put the insane, in a bed, one bed in a cage, and they'd take you in there and put you in a straitjacket and tie you down if you was crazy. Well, they put me in that. So then when I got well enough to put me over in D block, they come up and give me a trial. Took me in a room, told me, said, I'm going to take all your good time, 3,600 days. Said, if you had any more, we'd take that. See, that's almost 10 years. And it says, we're going to try you for attempt escape, too. Took me over to D block, and I went through the door. They took all my clothes away from me, but a pair of shorts. And they took me down and put me in a dark cell. That's 21 days bread and water.